I'm Kristen Nimzik, and this is all the news you need to know. Thursday, February 1st is Lights Out Day, celebrated all around the world as a day to focus on air pollution and environmental issues in general. During the local time of 6:55 to 7 p.m., all people are asked to turn out their lights to show support for a focus on issues concerning energy consumption in the home. The effort comes from a coalition of French environmental groups. The group said its goal is, quote, to allow citizens to express their concern and their determination to urgently stop energy waste. French officials agreed to shut off the Eiffel Tower during the 5 minutes. The Eiffel Tower's 20,000 lights account for the 9% of the monument's total energy consumption of 7,000 megawatt-hours per year.
This 5-minute display precedes major world summits about environmentalism, in part spurred by President Bush's acknowledgement in his State of the Union address that climate change needs to be addressed by the U.S. and the world. The top UN official for the environment asked Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on Tuesday, the 30th, to convene an emergency international summit to combat global change. Ban was not opposed to the idea, saying, quote, climate change is one of the most important and urgent agendas that the international community has to address before 2012.
During this time of war, one of the more popular slogans is, I support the soldiers, but not the war. But does this resonate with the soldiers themselves? With the wars and the administration's popularity at an all-time low, NBC correspondents asked soldiers in Iraq how the political situation back home affects them. Let's watch a clip of that report.
Troops here say they are increasingly frustrated by American criticism of the war. Many take it personally, believing it is also criticism of what they've been fighting for. 21-year-old specialist Tyler Johnson is on his first tour in Iraq. He thinks skeptics should come over and see what it's like firsthand before criticizing.
Because people are dying. You know what I'm saying? You may support, we support the troops, but so you're not supporting what they do, what they share to sweat for, what we bleed for, what we die for. It just don't make sense to me.
Staff Sergeant Manuel Shagan has served in Afghanistan and is now on his second tour in Iraq. He says people back home can't have it both ways.
One thing I don't like is when people back home say they support the troops, but they don't support the war. If they're going to support us all the way.
Specialist Peter Mana thinks people have forgotten the toll the war has taken.
If they don't think we're doing a good job, everything that we've done here is all in vain.
Apache Company has lost 2 soldiers and now worries their country may be abandoning the mission they died for.
It seems the American public cannot have it both ways. The Congress recently learned this lesson too, when Lieutenant General David Petraeus was brought before the Senate Armed Services Committee to be questioned on the political fallout surrounding the Senate's anti-surge resolutions on Iraq. When asked by Senator John McCain, quote, what effect does that have on the morale of your troops? Lieutenant General Petraeus replied, quote, well, it would not be a beneficial effect. Some senators later seemed worried by the message their anti-surge resolution will send to the troops in Iraq, as well as our enemies, that we are in fact a nation divided. But as long as our leaders remain steadfast in their plans, there is little room for compromise or middle ground.
Following a New York City ordinance to ban artificial trans fat from restaurants, McDonald's has revealed the work of some 7 years of research, a new natural trans fat-free oil. After sampling through tests, feedback has been that the fries will retain their unique taste, and the McDonald's stock went up 35 cents per share after the announcement. McDonald's had been lagging behind other fast food chains in ridding their restaurants of artificial trans fats, claiming taste as a deciding factor in waiting so long.
As of Thursday the 1st of February, smoking will be outlawed in all workplaces, hospitals, schools, and shops throughout France. Next year, the ban will spread to include bars, restaurants, and cafes. This new measure is a countrywide ban on all public smoking, which is the most stringent France has ever been against tobacconists. If the pass is any indication, however, this will have little effect on the number of smokers. 24% of France's population smoke cigarettes, according to France's health ministry. In the early 1990s, France had a law banning smoking in the workplace that was generally ignored. Most workplaces have smoking rooms to this day. The price of cigarettes was also raised 40%, but after the initial dip, numbers evened out at their previous amounts. This new law mandates that any smoker's cut will be charged a €75 fine. That is, if it is at all enforced.
President Bush said Monday the 29th that the United States, quote, will respond firmly if Iran escalates military action in Iraq. But Bush emphasized that he has no intention of invading Iran. The United States accuses Iran of supplying terrorists and insurgents in Iraq with improvised explosive devices that have become the most lethal threat to U.S. forces. President Bush said it was important to distinguish the nuclear standoff with Iran from the quarrel over Tehran's involvement with Iraq. He said he believed the dispute over Iran's nuclear program could be resolved diplomatically.
His efforts, though, have been somewhat circumvented by the European governments. They are avoiding the Bush administration's demand that they block transactions and freeze assets of some Iranian companies, as well as stop support for exports from Iran, citing economic reasons for the avoidance. Because there are huge European business interests at stake, we have to be very careful, said one European official. At least 5 Iranian banks have branches in Europe that have engaged in transactions with European banks, American and European officials say. The 5 include Bank Sadarat, cited last year by the United States as being involved in financing terrorism by Hezbollah and others, and Bank Sapat, cited this month as involved in ballistic missile programs. European governments provided $18 billion in government loan guarantees for Iran in 2005, and the number has gone down little since the nuclear showdown in December.
In December, Iran's refusal to give up its nuclear program led the UN Security Council to impose economic sanctions on the country. Iran contests that its reasons are civilian, but recent rumors say otherwise. On Tuesday, the 23rd, the Daily Telegraph, citing an unnamed senior European defense official, said under a new agreement, North Korea will share data and information from the October 9th nuclear test with Tehran's nuclear scientists. North Korean officials denied these allegations, but the article is enough to incite nervousness within the international community.